The Mandalorian Chapter 18, The Mines of Mandalore, just dropped, and there is so much to break down. Lots of references to the Clone Wars, the expanded universe, some Tatooine tidbits, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but Grogu is more vocal than ever before. As Dave Filoni told Entertainment Tonight the other day, he's gonna start speaking properly very soon. Even Peli noticed it. Our episode begins on Mos Eisley on Tatooine, at Peli hangar. She really is the funniest space aunt in the galaxy, and she brings a lightheartedness that is really needed in pretty intense episodes like this one. Once again, surprise surprise, she's swindling customers. In this case, a Rodian, who by the way is played by the same actress who played the Rodian prisoner and the Rodian mum in the Book of Boba Fett. Now Peli notes a couple of times that it's Boonta Eve. Of course, in episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the Boonta Eve classic was the pod race Anakin took part in. But Boonta Eve itself is an annual holiday on Tatooine. It dates back to the days of the Old Republic, and it commemorates a Hutt who they believe ascended to godhood. That's right, they have a literal Hutt as a deity, and this guy was called Boonta Hastilik Shadru. The fact that it's Boonta Eve also explains the fireworks and festivities. Mando arrives to ask her if she knows about IG parts to rebuild IG-11. Peli alludes to those being old and difficult to find these days, so instead, because he needs a droid to accompany him to Mandalore, Peli offers R5D4 for half off, the classic astromech from A New Hope, and she slips in the fact he worked with the Rebellion before being returned to Tatooine. Now this is consistent with what we know in canon about R5, his work with the Alliances referenced in the book Ultimate Star Wars. R5, while not as functional as he used to be, is the perfect droid to test for toxicity on the planet of Mandalore. And so, Mando takes him and they head off, but not before being wished "May the Force be with you" by Peli. It's also really funny that Peli is missing the tooth that she lost in the Book of Boba Fett. And so, we see Mandalore in live action. Now it's a shame on Tatooine we didn't see Boba Fett, the scene was very short, but the story and the pacing was perfect. They didn't need to show any more. So as I say, Mandalore in live action, a planet that was so iconic in the Clone Wars, is finally being adapted for the show. But as they enter the Mandalore system, Din tells Grogu all about their heritage and ancestry. He uses the collective we, because as far as Din is concerned, Grogu is a Mandalorian foundling and shares the creed. In this scene, we also learn that Din was raised on Concordia, a moon of Mandalore we first see in the Clone Wars Season 2. It was governed by Death Watch, which is the group that rescued Mando when he was a child. Din also points out Kalevala, which we saw last week. It's where Bo-Katan's throne is, and so they descend to Mandalore. The planet is glassed, and due to the electromagnetic field around the planet disrupted by the fusion bombs during the Purge, communication on the ground is going to be impossible. But they do land successfully and send out R5D4 to sample the terrain. Eventually, Din goes to investigate where he went, and he's attacked by a group of Mandalore creatures known as the Alamites. As Bo-Katan later tells us, they used to live in the surface wastelands behind the cities. Mando ignites the Darksaber and takes them out. It's always great to see this weapon used, and it's used twice during the episode, once by Din and later by Bo. Din finds R5 and they return to the ship, where the droid gives a status report, and it turns out the air is breathable, so Mando realizes the planet is not cursed. Bo-Katan was right. He and Grogu descend down the ruins of Sundari, and they try to find the mines. Din discovers an old Mandalorian helmet, and before he knows it, he is engulfed by a creature with one eye, who uses a metallic spider-like mech suit. He takes Din to his lair, and Grogu follows. I really love when Star Wars gets weird and wonderful with its creatures, and this one takes the biscuit. This one was peculiar and creepy, but also reminiscent of General Grievous. I think the visual reference and the coughing was deliberate. It's worth pointing out that the legendary visual effects supervisor Phil Tippett worked on this episode, an OG Star Wars creature designer and producer, and it's very clear the various monsters had his input. In this case, I wonder what the creature inside the droid is. Is it a Dianoga, or something very similar? The eye was distinctive, but either way, it wanted Mando's blood. The organic one-eyed being inside the droid sustains itself by drawing blood from others. This was one twisted creature. When the creature leaves for a moment, Grogu tries to save Mando using the Force. We see Grogu jump around a lot, and he's really honed in on his abilities. He's way more confident, and I think Luke would be proud. Grogu is unsuccessful, but Din tells him to go get Bo-Katan, so the child rushes back to the ship after defeating some more Alamites, and with R5, heads to Kalevala. Bo-Katan, frustrated when she sees the N1, assumes it's Din, but she's impressed when she realizes it's Grogu, but she knows something's up. She's worried about what happened to Din. She later tells Grogu that his Force abilities must be good if he can navigate the ship all by himself. Of course, in reality, he also had R5's help. Bo-Katan has her droid download R5 to find out where they were. Bo and Grogu return to Mandalore, where Bo laments over what used to be. And can you blame her? She still hasn't gotten over the destruction of the planet. It was her homeworld, and she was part of the royal family there. She can't believe what Mandalore's become, and in a way, it kills her inside. Interestingly enough though, as the episode goes on, Bo undergoes a huge shift. She started the episode destroyed and depleted, but by the end, there is a spark that reignited in her. She sees Din's passion and commitment to the way, and while they disagree in terms of Mandalorian philosophies, the dedication Din shows moves her. It inspires her that someone is so dedicated to their people. But first things first, Bo-Katan is a certified badass. She takes out more Alamites and tells Grogu that she used to know quite a few Jedi. There was a time Mandalorians and Jedi saw eye to eye. And I think in that moment, she remembered the siege of Mandalore, Ahsoka and Obi-Wan. When Grogu leads Bo to Din, I swear Grogu was trying to say come or follow me. His vocal abilities are definitely building up to full words, and I love that development for him. We hear the croakiness in his voice, it's developing into language. So afterwards, Bo-Katan destroys the creature holding Din hostage. It was so awesome seeing her use her shield, but also the Darksaber. Bo wielding the Darksaber is something fans have wanted to see for a long time, because after Sabine Wren handed it to her in Star Wars Rebels, we really don't see her use it, and after she lost it to Gideon, and Mando got it from him, she envied being able to wield the weapon once again, and she did so brilliantly in this episode, even if it still belongs to Mando. They rescue Din and have a chat before heading to the mines. Bo offers Din some Pog Soup, something she says all young Mandos drink on the homeworld, but Din has never had any. Bo sees the irony that an orthodox child of the Watch has never even heard of it, but then again, he was adopted into the tribe. Bo agrees to take Mando down to the mines, and on their walk, she recounts her upbringing and the royal ceremonies she took part in, notably reciting the Mandalorian Tenets. These are called the Resol'nare, the 6 rules which all Mandos have to live by. There are 2 versions, the version that children recite, and then the main one. The children's one goes as follows: education and armor, self-defense, our tribe, our language, and our leader all help us survive. And those who played Star Wars The Old Republic will be very familiar, but the common version is as follows: wearing armor, speaking the language, defending yourself and your family, raising your children as Mandalorians, contributing to the clan's welfare when called upon by the Mandalore, rallying to his cause. Now Bo-Katan also mentions her father, Duke Adonai Kryze, who died defending the planet in 42 BBY during the Great Clan Wars. Alas, they arrive at the mines, and Din prepares for the ritualistic cleansing. He removes parts of his Beskar and immerses himself in a slow baptism. But suddenly, he is dragged beneath the water. Once again, as she's done so many times in the past, Bo-Katan jumps in to rescue Din. On their way out, they come face to face with the Mythosaur, the legendary Mandalorian creature who is part of their emblem. The armor mentioned this beast in the Book of Boba Fett when she said it only exists in legends, but it's very much a reality. It really does exist, and so our episode ends on a cliffhanger. I reckon the appearance of the Mythosaur is a defining factor for the rest of the season, because as some of the early rumors stated, the Mythosaur becomes more important than the Darksaber, especially when laying claim to the throne. Whoever tames it can rule. Is this Bo-Katan's chance to lead her people? That thing was huge, and it was breathtaking. At least the glimpses we did see. But I wonder if Mando's now going to go to the armorer and tell her about his experience. Does the Mythosaur now create the possibility of the unification of the tribes? Is word going to spread, and more Mandalorian clans are going to arrive on the homeworld? The symbolic nature of the beast cannot be understated. As always guys, I will be making more videos breaking down individual scenes, and this is a big one. But the episode delivered fantastic storytelling and visuals. I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10. But what did you guys think? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.